When we talk about being full stack developers, it doesn't mean that we are not looking for specialists.
As focus is shifting from code output to problem solving and product thinking, how will SpringCT measure impact and performance?
So for a developer, even if code gets generated quickly, reviewing that code and ensuring quality is still an important job, and that will decide the outcome, that will decide the performance.
And what do you think how this will impact the long-term skill growth?
So I'll give you a simple example in your context. You use LLMs regularly for developing conversations.
How do you see the QA profile, whether it shrinks or transforms into AI era?
When I started my career, I was contributing to the development of a mission-critical software platform which was used for industrial automation.
How customers are reacting to this overall AI-enabled coding and processes, and what are their overall expectations?
There are some who are very sensitive about their IP and do not like the idea of using any LLMs because they feel that there is a risk of their ideas getting shared with the rest of the world.
So how do they ensure this in their day-to-day practice?
Own your learning means that you learn things because you want to learn on your own, not because somebody else is telling you to learn.
Hello everyone, this is Nilisha and I welcome you all back to Reflections. We are doing something special today. After a wonderful response to episode 2, we received many thoughtful and insightful questions from all of you, and we decided to dedicate this entire episode to answering them. Have you ever wondered that the questions you ask today could actually shape the future you build tomorrow? And who better to address them than someone who has witnessed the tech world evolve both with and without AI. In today's episode of Reflections 2.1, we are bringing your questions directly to Mohan to have an open and honest conversation about AI, the changing landscape of software development, career growth, leadership, and the future of SpringCT. You asked, you shared, and you inspired. Now steps in Mohan with the answers you desired. So lean in closer, there's much to be done. Reflections 2.1, let the dialogue run. Welcome Mohan.
Thank you, Nilisha.
Hi Mohan. So in a past episode you mentioned that with the advent of these AI code generation tools, businesses can't just rely on software development anymore. So my question is, what do you think could be the impact of using such tools on the overall outsourced software development business?
That's a good question. Actually, we need to understand the difference between our business and the average outsourcing business in India to really understand how the impact will be. So, as I keep saying, we started this company with the objective of providing technology leadership and not just do software development based on instructions from the customers. So that is an important differentiator. Today, you can see that a lot of companies are struggling to bring in this product perspective, this technology leadership perspective into their business, while we have developed experience of more than 18 years in this space already. We can proudly say that we have already built more than 500 products with this approach, and I'm sure that this approach is going to help us immensely in future.
As focus is shifting from code output to problem solving and product thinking, how will SpringCT measure impact and performance?
Now the question is, how do you ensure good outcome, right? So for that, there is always a need to understand a problem clearly, ask questions if you have any, make sure that you clearly understand the problem for which you want to create a solution, write code. Even if you use an AI tool for generating the code, that doesn't mean that the code will exactly meet the requirement. So in terms of performance, now what becomes important is to look at whether the code generated is actually meeting the requirements properly in the best possible way. Are there any defects? Are there any performance issues? I mean, there can be so many dimensions. So for a developer, even if code gets generated quickly, reviewing that code and ensuring quality is still an important job, and that will decide the outcome, that will decide the performance.
So, as engineers or developers, we are now expected to be a full stack problem owner. Considering this, how team can balance between a generalized ownership and still retain deep technical expertise in critical areas.
See, when we talk about being full stack developers, it doesn't mean that we are not looking for specialists.
Okay.
Specialized expertise in aspects like security or scaling or even complex problems that you want to solve using AI, that is still going to be important. The other dimension of it, which is you cannot limit yourself to just one small part or one layer of the entire stack as your responsibility, and that is more important to understand, because with the AI tools, you know that that code for UI, let's say, is generated within hours from the Figma designs that are already in place. Now, if that is done in a day's time, what do you do next until the next designs are ready? Right? So one person cannot define their role as just converting Figma designs into functional UI, which means that they need to have bigger scope.
Right.
Now, bigger scope, in fact, when I say full stack, it doesn't necessarily mean that the bigger scope has to be UI and backend development. It can also be UX design and UI development. It can be UI development and backend development. It can be backend development along with some of the specialized skills that I talked about. So I think what is more important here is to understand that your scope needs to expand. It cannot stay very limited to just one layer of the entire stack.
With AI generating most of the code, where does the quality ownership shifts? How do you see the QA profile, whether it shrinks or transform into AI era?
See, my thought about QA or testing is somewhat different from what industry generally understands as QA. I'll tell you the reason. When I started my career, I was contributing to the development of a mission critical software platform which was used for industrial automation, which meant that if that software did not perform well, there was a possibility of manufacturing getting halted because of some defects in the software. In spite of that, for the first 3 to 4 years of my career, when we were developing this product, we did not have any tester in our team.
Okay.
Now, the need for testers started emerging as the scope for testing started growing. So when I was doing that development, for example, we were deploying this software on MS-DOS PCs, and there wasn't much variation in terms of the devices used or the computers used for deployment and the computers used for development. Over the period, this phenomenon has developed where you have a lot of different hardware capabilities, you have different operating system versions, you have different browsers, you have different technology stacks, screen sizes,
Absolutely.
which result in different behaviors on different devices. Okay, but then testing, in my opinion, should be limited to testing such different scenarios which a developer cannot easily reproduce.
Right.
Okay, so if I'm writing some code expecting that I will try it out on 6 different OS versions and 10 different screen sizes is not correct. That is where we need help from a tester. But expecting that there may be defects, functional defects in the code that I have written and the QA will uncover that is also not correct, right? So from that perspective, even if you say, I do not believe that personally as yet, but even if you say that AI will generate perfect code without any defects, that would still mean that it will only be functionally correct. It may have challenges with respect to these other environmental parameters. There may be challenges related to security aspects, related to performance, and you may have to create scenarios which require that testing. So the job of the tester, I would say, in fact, would shift more to the core of why QA as a function developed, which is to test software in scenarios that go beyond the development environment of the developer. And I don't think that this is going to change substantially, at least in the near future.
So I would like to understand how customers are reacting to this overall AI-enabled coding and processes, and what are their overall expectations?
So there is a wide variation in terms of what customers expect. There are some who are very sensitive about their IP and do not like the idea of using any LLMs because they feel that there is a risk of their ideas getting shared with the rest of the world. And then there are, on the other extreme, customers who want to go all out and make best possible use of AI tools to generate the outcomes quickly. If you ask me, my personal opinion is that both these extremes may not be the right approaches. We definitely need to take care of IP protection, which can be achieved by using LLMs in a controlled environment and not go with something like ChatGPT. Or if you have to go to ChatGPT, then limit your interaction to topics that do not reveal any intellectual property. But completely avoiding use of LLMs or code generation mechanisms is also not a great idea, because that means that you may be lagging behind your competition in terms of building new features, releasing new versions, and that in longer term may impact your business.
In your last episode, you spoke about Pro Launch. Can you tell us more about Pro Launch and how exactly does it help with rapid product launch?
Sure. So there are two impacts of development in AI that we are seeing today. One is that the speed of development has grown, and second, that we are able to create a lot of content, media content, using AI tools with ease. So this includes stuff like websites or videos and such. So we decided that, okay, before that, the other phenomenon that is happening is that people who are not technologists but have some interesting ideas about products, new products, are becoming more courageous in terms of taking up those ideas and developing POCs or complete products, because they know that the software development process has become easier now, right? So we are kind of combining these two things to create this offering for Pro Launch, where we work directly with relatively less technical or non-technical people, owners of startups who want to build products but don't have the kind of depth that they need in technology and don't have the supporting infrastructure, team members to do promotion of the product. So what we said is that we will help such people and such interesting ideas getting into reality quickly by offering help from for the entire spectrum, right from developing product specification to doing some POC development, helping them in showcasing that to people who can give some initial feedback, then developing promotional content. I will give you a very recent example. We have built a telehealth product for one of our clients, and just last week they were participating in a telehealth conference where they had a booth of their own. But I realized that they did not have any interesting promotional content to present there. So they were only relying on their people being there at the booth and talking to visitors, which is not very productive because they need to spend a lot of time and effort in doing that. So I suggested that we can actually create some promotional videos for them very quickly, which they can run there on their TV screens, which we actually did. We created some videos, they showcased those videos at their booth, and the response was extremely good. So when we talk about Pro Launch, essentially we talk about helping a startup, a great idea, to get into reality as quickly as possible and help in reaching out to potential customers with ease and with better impact.
Do you think extensive reliance on AI tools in daily development work could reduce a developer's creativity or their willingness to explore new approaches? And what do you think how this will impact their long-term skill growth?
Well, there can certainly be an impact. I think it depends on the approach of an individual to learning, growing, and developing career. So we definitely see people around who are happy with just delivering what they are asked to do, just develop software against a given specification. And there are people who want to take initiative in exploring more things and learning and supporting the development, not just in terms of creating that piece of code, but in terms of contributing new ideas or ideas that improve the product beyond what is in the specification. So I'll give you a simple example in your context. You use LLMs regularly for developing conversations, but there may be some requirements where you don't need an entire LLM. A small language model may be good enough to address a particular requirement, which may have benefits like smaller footprint, so reduced cost effectively, better performance, and so on. Now the question is whether you will figure it out and recommend that we use an SLM instead of an LLM for a particular problem. This is just one example, but you can apply this logic, this approach to all the work that you do, and that is how you can become more creative, you can contribute more, and that will certainly help in growing your career.
So you did mention that about people should own their learning. So how do they ensure this in their day-to-day practice?
Own your learning means that you learn things because you want to learn on your own, not because somebody else is telling you to learn, your manager is telling you to learn, or because you are required to learn to complete a task that is assigned to you. Learning can be prioritized based on multiple factors. One is what learning is immediately relevant to your current responsibilities. What learning is good for increasing the breadth of your knowledge. What learning will be useful for your next step in your career. So you need to identify all these different types of learning needs and make a plan based on that. Immediate needs will always have higher priority, but one should definitely devote some time for learning that will help in future, that will help in 3 months, 6 months, or something that will help even after 2 years.
Can you also share your thought about what practical steps that developers should take while shifting from writing code to solving problems?
Yeah, that's an important question. So solving a problem means that creating something that is useful for the business, right? It's not about creating something that is given as a requirement by someone. And the reason is that the person who is giving the requirement themselves may not have clearly thought about the entire problem, and there may be gaps in terms of what they are trying to solve or trying to address and the software specification that they have created. So to help in this process, in ensuring that what you build actually entirely addresses the problem, entirely solves the problem, a developer needs to do a number of things. First is they need to understand why a company wants to build a particular product, why they want to build a particular feature in that product. Then there can be questions like whether they have any competitors who are already in the market. If they are there in the market, then why are these guys developing another product to compete with them? What is special or unique that they want to offer? Are there any feedbacks about existing products that can give some insights into the features that this new product should have to get better traction, to address some more real problems? So if a developer goes through this entire thought process, then I am sure they can contribute far better in solving the problems and not just writing code against a given requirement.
And this will be probably beyond the AI, the experience that they have built. or they have learned?
This may not be directly relevant to AI, but I can say that with AI, this learning and exploration has become easier because you can quickly get answers to many questions.
Right.
So there is an opportunity to get as much information as possible and use that in your work.
So with the AI boosting productivity for everyone, is there a possibility that a skill gap between a junior developer and a senior developer becomes narrower, putting both of them at the same performance level? And if so, then how should an organization define a career growth path and different roles for in this AI driven environment?
Okay.
I would say that there are two parts to this question, or rather the answer that I would like to give. First is that yes, with AI tools, the speed of development improves. So it is very likely that a junior person will need slightly more time than a senior person in writing the same code. True. But if you look at the topics that I discussed just a while ago, there are a number of other things that are important for ensuring quality of the code that you write, quality of the component that you develop. And these are aspects like performance, security, scalability, and there are many other dimensions. There are aspects related to domain expertise. So all these things come only with experience. Okay, some of these can still be addressed by, let's say, brainstorming with an LLM, but experience definitely plays a role there. So in terms of time required to develop a piece of code, they may take similar time, but in terms of the quality that a senior person can deliver would definitely be better than the quality that a less experienced person can deliver, and that is the difference between the two. Now the gap will definitely reduce to an extent. It is not going to be as significant difference as it has been in the past, but difference will definitely be there. The second part, which is also important, is that we have gotten into a habit of rating someone as a junior or a senior based on number of years of experience, which in my opinion is not the right approach. I have never liked this, but unfortunately our entire industry runs with this approach. So it is not very easy to have very different rules in our organization. But I always look at what outcome a person is giving rather than the amount of time they take or the number of years of experience that they have. So what I mean to say is that the gap between a junior and a senior is in terms of the quality of outcome already, not in terms of the number of years. Okay, and ensuring that that gap stays or grows further is definitely in the hands of people by following some of the approaches that we discussed earlier, like focusing on learning, like solving the real problems, and so on. So to conclude, I would say that seniority will be defined more by the performance of the individual than the number of years. But senior people who have more number of years of experience definitely have a better chance to demonstrate their seniority.
AI today is dominated by prompt-driven text generation, but beyond all the text generation and the content creation, what innovations are transforming the industries in more impactful ways?
Yes, text generation is the bulk of AI that is happening today, but there are other areas. Agentic AI, for example, is already a buzzword. We at SpringCT also work in a couple other areas that go deeper into AI. One is predictive analytics. So for example, we are using a predictive maintenance approach for maintaining industrial assets to reduce their downtime and the cost of maintenance and so on. That is one dimension which is important, which is going to evolve or which is already evolving. Another, I think, is multimodal interfaces, where a user can interact with a software in multiple ways. not just by using the applications, but maybe using the audio, video, multiple channels. And the ARIA platform that we are developing is a first step in that direction as far as our UC, Unified Communication Practice goes. And that's another thing that we are doing today. And I'm sure more things will come as we make progress in using AI for applications beyond text generation, beyond conversation.
As SpringCT is very deeply into the product engineering and product development, so I would love to understand your perspective that what has changed in a product engineering mindset today than a decade ago.
A lot of things have changed since we started this company.
Mm-hmm.
Some important aspects are that the product release cycles have expedited quite a bit. Earlier, when we started, businesses used to be happy with releasing a new product version once in a year.
Yes.
Slowly, that shifted to 6 months, 3 months, and now a lot of companies do that every couple of weeks or even quicker than that.
Right.
This was also enabled by the fact that a lot of product development, deployment shifted to cloud, making it easier to maintain and upgrade products. On the negative side, or not negative necessarily, but the challenge that has developed over the period is that expectations of users have also grown substantially.
Right.
So a lot of aspects like data security, privacy, accessibility, users expect that all these dimensions are taken care of in a new product, in a new application on day one. If they find something lacking, they are immediately complaining about it, and that can result in that product, in spite of being very strong in addressing some real challenges, may not get the deserved the response that the product deserves. I was actually somewhat worried about this developing trend, but then AI came and that actually helped in reversing this to a great extent, because the speed of development increased substantially. So to give an example again, with one of our recent clients, which is a startup just a year old, they started with a great idea in an era before AI. They would have probably taken 2 or 3 years to reach a stage where they could actually deploy their first version at a customer site, because it's a very involved product in biotechnology space. Okay. But because of AI, the development cycle shrunk quite a bit. In less than a year, they were able to reach out to the end customers, demonstrate their product, deploy, start proof of concept runs. When they received feedback from these early users, they were also able to respond quickly to that and build new features that would take care of these observations that the users had shared. So overall, the speed of development and the entire cycle of idea to release has shrunk quite a bit because of AI, and that is helping. And I can see that this is going to strengthen further in coming years. In fact, the offering we talked about, Pro Launch, actually tries to take benefit of this emerging situation, this emerging scenario, and help customers with good product ideas to make best possible use of technology and go to market quickly and generate positive outcomes very quickly.
Right. So probably I'm not sure how relevant it will be, but I have seen earlier there was a waterfall model. Now we have got moved to agile. Now again the rapid prototype development. Right? Is there any innovation going to happen in the product development?
These changes keep happening. These changes are basically in line with the changing market expectations.
Right.
As I said, there was a time when new version coming out in a year was fine, was acceptable for the product companies as well as for the users.
Right.
waterfall model could easily support that. When people started expecting quicker releases, obviously waterfall model was not adequate, so people shifted to agile.
Right.
With growing expectations, changing realities, the approaches will definitely change. But I think effectively what matters is how well a product company is able to respond to the market expectations.
With AI in the era, where do you see SpringCT 3 years down the line?
Things are changing so rapidly that it's not easy to predict what's going to happen after 3 years. But I can discuss the direction we are going in. We are certainly looking at learning AI or adopting AI as much as possible. We are investing time and effort in that. We want to make sure that our learnings benefit our clients in multiple ways. So, as I said, rather than just building a product based on the ideas shared by the customers, we are now also helping them in promoting these products, in taking the products to the market. We are also helping them in reducing the overall development time. Now, when it comes to reducing the time, again, one approach that becomes important is the accelerators. So we are building components and frameworks that can be used to quickly build new products where the common features which are anyway required in a particular product in our focus verticals, I'm not talking in general, but in our focus verticals, these components are readily available so that the development time shrinks further and the customers are able to launch products quickly at a much lower cost and get response at the earliest. So that is the overall direction we are taking. How quickly and how long we go will depend to an extent on how the technology grows further, what new opportunities develop, what market scenarios emerge. When I say market scenarios, it's more about the market needs and the funding that becomes available for building products, which is also an important dimension. So we are looking at a lot of changes happening over the period.
Up to what extent you use AI in decision making? Do you draw a line and why?
Oh, you mean my own decision making?
Yeah.
I use LLMs for my decision making and my tasks very frequently to a great extent, primarily because it gives me a lot of new thoughts, new ideas. But that doesn't mean that I entirely rely on what I'm getting from the LLM. I have my own thoughts, I have my own experiences, I have my own context, which the LLM is not aware of. So I use LLM a lot, but I use it for getting ideas beyond what I've already thought about. And then I compare these with what I have in mind and how things can blend. And based on that, take decisions. Now, talking about limits, yes, certainly there are limits primarily related to protecting intellectual property and confidential information about the business. So I have to make sure that such information is not discussed with the LLM because there is no assurance that the information that I've shared may not be used in a way that is not in the best interest of our business. But barring that, I am very open to using LLMs.
We are done with the questions here. It was indeed an impactful session. Thank you, Mohan, for taking out time to answer these questions so openly. Your perspective truly shaped this episode and gave us a lot to reflect on.
I also enjoyed this conversation thoroughly. Some questions were really thought-provoking. I also look at this as a feedback on the conversation that we had earlier. I'm also aware that not everyone could ask questions today. More people wanted to ask questions, but because of time constraints, we could not accommodate all of them. So let us do one more session sometime and continue this conversation.
I'm sure the audience would love it. Why not? And not to forget, Thank you so much to all the audience for sharing such thoughtful questions, for your time and for your engagement. You are what makes Reflections meaningful. Until then, keep reflecting, because the future just doesn't happen. It starts with the questions you choose to ask today.